Good afternoon, everyone. Um, it's really sunny today afternoon in Delhi, and I'm absolutely enjoying the a Sunday afternoon. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday afternoon as well. Best part about doing a virtual session like this is that I can actually give you some of the warmth that I'm getting from the sun. And I hope if it's not sunny around where you are, if it's not warm enough, you get a little bit from us from this session today. So here we are, and today we're going to talk about life around water in bygone days. And we have with us here Vikramjit Singh Rooprai, who I'm sure many of you already know, but for those who don't know, let me give you a little bit of information about him, and I'm sure you look up the amount of work that he's been doing around heritage. Vikramjit Singh Rooprai is a heritage activist and an educator. In 2009, he started exploring Delhi's monuments to promote the rich heritage of India. He has established heritage labs in schools where he encourages students and mentors to develop a new way of looking at our past. On his social media channels, he is better known for by his handle at Delhi Heritage. And I am actually quite privileged to have him not just as an author of Niyogi books, but also as a dear friend. And all talking to him is always a pleasure and an honor in itself. A very warm welcome to you, Vikramji. Okay, so as I just
Thank you,
mentioned,
Trisha. Thanks a lot.
okay, I think there is a little bit of a lag here, but with something good, there comes some technological glitches also, which we'll try and figure it out and sort it out throughout the during the course of the program. Um, But while I do not need to stress upon the importance of water on earth, I think I need to perhaps stress upon the importance of water conservation in India. Half of India is water stressed. And why I start with this part, even though we are talking about life around water in bygone days, is because you might remember that in 2018 summer, Shimla experienced acute water shortage, which left the residents reeling, and water was available only once in eight days to the residents. In 2019, again, a mega city like
Trisha,
Chennai.
we are losing you.
Uh, Let me just quickly check.
Trisha, you there?
Yes.
We are losing you. Actually, your voice is cracking. We are not able to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's better.
Just
Now maybe you can continue.
okay. Is this better now?
Yeah, this is better actually.
Okay. So I think I just switched off the Wi-Fi from everywhere else. I think this should be fine now.
Great. Or maybe it was
Okay.
too much sunlight.
Yeah, maybe too much sunlight. Here, have some. And so I was talking about the water shortages that have happened in India. Not considering what is happening globally, I'm just focusing on what is happening in our country in India. I mentioned about the water shortage that happened in Shimla, as well as the water shortage that happened in 2019 in Chennai, and Chennai being very close to the sea. As a matter of fact, it was flooded a couple of years before this water shortage happened. So we are in a situation where even we need police protection even for protecting our water bodies in that area. And so we understand we are going through this scarcity of water, but having said that, um, it is perhaps the idea of water conservation is not new. Not perhaps, but definitely it's not a very new concept, especially in the arid and the semi-arid regions like Rajasthan and the other areas. It's actually an ancient phenomena. And all the more reason we need to talk about life around water in bygone days to understand life around water today. So, to start with, before we come to your book, I would like to ask you a couple of questions around the topic. And the first question is about throwing. Can you throw light on some of these man-made water structures, water bodies, which has been around in India for a very long time? Of course, I'm not talking about the rivers and the seas, but what the man-made structures that we've needed and why have we needed them?
Well, Trisha, rivers and seas and lakes and ponds, all the natural water bodies cannot be discarded in this discussion. Perhaps we have to start from there to understand man made water structures. The
Okay.
earliest civilizations that we know of are called the
Huh.
river civilizations. We have got three ancient river civilizations. We have got the Nile Valley civilization. We have got the Indus Valley civilization. In Mesopotamia, it was next to river, and the fourth one that came up after these three, the Huanghe Valley in China, that is again a river civilization. So all the major civilizations that have survived for longest period were
Hmm.
started alongside rivers. Now there was
Hmm.
this constant fear and threat and this problem of rivers flooding, changing their course, multiple issues with natural water flow. So what these people did, besides there was also well, so much of space that you could consume, you could develop around the rivers. So they figured out a way that they can
Hmm.
still have water
Hmm.
without staying so close to river, dangerously so close to river, because problem
Hmm.
of floods was quite common. So
Hmm.
that's when they started digging up wells and tanks. We have got
Hmm.
examples from Indus Valley and later periods where the wells they have played a very important role. Now, problem with wells was that if there is one well and the village size grows more and becomes a town or a city, one well cannot suffice, and you can even have multiple wells, but that's not
Hmm.
sufficient because if there are 50 to 100 people lining up to fetch water, and at a
Hmm.
time one or two people can only fetch water from the well, it becomes
Hmm.
quite a tedious task and time consuming task. So what they did,
Yeah.
they instead of they created huge wells, large size wells,
Hmm.
and in many cases they also created steps to go all the way down to the water level, which
Hmm.
brings us to the concept of step wells or the baulis. One of the oldest
Okay.
baulis that we have in India that we know is Chand Bauli in Abhaneri, Rajasthan. It's
Hmm.
also the deepest bauli that we have in India, or rather South
Okay.
Asia. So
Okay.
structure of those sort came up.
Hmm. Okay. Yes. So I got lost actually trying to actually locate where these names I had written down. But as we also know that the oldest example of water management and water architectures in India can be found from the proto-historic era
Yeah.
in different Harappan sites like Dholavira and Lothal and Kalibangam and
Kalibangan.
Mohenjo-daro Kalibangan and Mohenjo-daro and others. Tell us a little bit about how the life revolved around these Baulis, because as you mentioned, the towns were built across water bodies and so on and so forth. So how exactly did the life revolve around these Baulis? Um,
See, although people have settled across the planet much before these civilizations, I would
hmm,
say the time of prehistory and proto-history during
hmm,
the Indus Valley civilization and other
hmm,
civilizations, they were able to manage water in a very nice manner. For example,
hmm,
you mentioned Dholavira. I don't know
hmm,
how many people are aware, but in Dholavira, there were two rivers and they were actually able to construct dams on those rivers and channel the water to bring it into their water tanks. And
hmm,
there were over a dozen tanks, out of which only three have been excavated so far. And one of them is three times bigger than the Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro, which actually, when they had dug up Mohenjo-daro back in the days,
hmm,
it
hmm,
was a fascination for entire world, especially the archaeology world, because they had
hmm.
never seen anything of that size. And
Size, huh?
when in 60s and 70s they dug up Dholavira, They found out that one
Hmm.
of the tanks is three times bigger than that one, and
Wow.
it all the water into that tank comes through sluice dams, and they found traces of two dried up river banks
Hmm.
over there,
Hmm. Hmm.
river basins. So they
Hmm.
were able to create dams, they were able to direct water, and it is a island within run of touch. So that makes
Hmm.
it more special. Then
Okay.
I remember the example of Lothal. Now
Hmm.
in Lothal happens to be the oldest port town that we know of.
Hmm.
Lothal was completely flooded and then it was built over again. We have got
Hmm.
layers of both eras.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then again, third time it was further built over. Now,
Hmm.
interestingly, when they rebuilt it and
Yeah.
they knew that earlier it was flooded and this problem of river, because it is not right at a seashore, it's a few
Hmm.
kilometers inside, connected through a water channel or kind of river,
Yeah.
which if
Hmm.
the sea is flooded, the river will also be flooded.
Hmm.
So what they did, they found a nice high mound and they constructed their entire city on this high mound. And they
Okay.
constructed a tank on the other side of the city. It's a huge tank, and
Okay.
there is a small canal which connects the river to the tank, and
Hmm.
then there are overflow channels. So
Hmm.
even if the river is flooded, they have
Hmm.
made a decent arrangement that no matter how much water comes in, the city
Hmm.
will not be affected, the boats
Hmm.
will not be affected, and then they
Hmm.
had platforms and they had docks and they had high towers from where someone could stand and observe
Hmm.
right from the warehouse to the loading
Hmm.
unloading docks of the shipping, where the ships are docked. And
Hmm.
then there was also a debate that this is just another tank like all other tanks of the Harappan civilization. It's
Hmm.
not a dock, but microbiologist and marine biologist from Pune and Mumbai, they came in, they did their research, they found aqua fossils or marine fossils, the kind of fossils that can only be found in sea, and they were
Okay.
all over there. So they must have stuck to those ancient ships, come over here, and they settled in this basin.
Ah.
And that's how it
Hmm.
was proved that it is the oldest dock. So we have been able to understand water, the wrath of water, and how to utilize water in,
Ah.
even water's power in our favor. I'll use one more
Ah.
example over here. In Jammu, we have a town called Manda. Now, this
Okay.
Manda is a very small town from Harappan civilization. What these
Hmm.
people used to do, the trees in Manda region, in Jammu region, are amazing, and that wood was
Hmm.
really good for constructing whatever they wanted to, like making entire city. This wood was good, and they
Hmm.
wanted to bring in wood from Manda to all the cities of Indus Valley civilization. So they
Hmm.
set up a huge town in Manda where the
Hmm.
job of those people was just to cut trees and throw in the
Hmm.
river. And it would
Hmm.
flow through the river and come into Indus. And whichever town needed wood, they would
Ah.
pull out as many logs as they needed. Now, just imagine the kind of communication they had, the kind of synchronization or system they had, that how many wood logs will be released from the hill area and which
Hmm.
city will pull over how many logs, and how to use
Hmm.
water flow. Because at times it is also split into tributaries and all that is happening,
Yeah.
how they would have
Hmm.
managed everything. So all that was
Hmm.
happening. So when you talk about life around water or customs around water, we have
Hmm.
started from these kind of engineering practices, and then we come down to lifestyle practices where we have examples like in the morning and late evening men would use this water, whichever water
Hmm.
body it is, it be it a
Yeah.
lake or a pond or a well or a step well. And in the afternoon only women were allowed to use. Now it's not a
Hmm.
written law, but it has been a practice across South Asia, and even today in the remote villages when you go where they are still using these old water structures, you would see this thing that if during noon or around noon, if a man goes near the water body, he would not
Yeah.
just walk into the structure. He would
Hmm.
stand nearby, not facing
Hmm.
towards the water, and he would make some sort of noise to make his presence felt. So that
Yeah.
in case there are ladies, they would get alert, and if they can bring water outside, they can give it to that man. Or if they're decent, they can just ask him, okay, you can come, you can fetch water or whatever you want to do.
Hmm.
So that has been a culture around water bodies.
Yes,
Over to
that's
you.
very interesting. Yes. Um, uh, but let's now that's around water bodies. Now let's come specifically to Baulis because you've written a book
Sure.
on the Bauli.
Yeah.
And what interests me the most was the hydraulic engineering that they had used. Now we are aware. Now let's talk about your book specifically because most of us जानते हैं कि रानी की वाव के बारे में सुना होगा, अदलज के बारे में सुना होगा, चांद बावली जैसे आपने कहा उसके बारे में सुना होगा, पर दिल्ली की बावलियों के बारे में बहुत ज्यादा नहीं पता है लोगों पे। और आपने किताब उन्हीं पे लिखी है, दिल्ली हेरिटेज टॉप 10 बाउलीज। बट हम बाउलीज के दिल्ली की बाउलीज की बात करने से पहले आई वांटेड टू टॉक अबाउट द इंजीनियरिंग, मतलब इसके पीछे क्या साइंस यूज किया गया है इन बाउलियों को बनाने के लिए, और उसके बाद एंड हाउ डज इट compete with the wells and the tanks you mentioned. तो इसके बारे में कुछ बताइए प्लीज।
Okay. There are different type of architectural styles that are used to construct a bauli. हमारे पास एक डिजाइन ऐसा है जिसमें कुआं और टैंक अलग अलग होते हैं. So there is a
हम्म।
well जिस जो जमीन के नीचे जो confined aquifer है, जो हम कहते हैं ना जमीन के नीचे नहरें बह रही हैं या जो water table
हाँ
जिसको
जी।
हम बोलते हैं. So
हाँ
one
जी।
is where you dig up a well all the way up till the water table, and then you construct a separate tank next to it. From the well
हाँ।
water will come into the tank, लेकिन टैंक डायरेक्टली नीचे तक कनेक्ट नहीं करेगा और आप सीढ़ियां बना
ओके।
देते हैं टैंक तक. Now the
ओके।
water in the tank which gets filled up through the well is used
हाँ।
for bathing and washing.
ओके।
Water in the well is used for drinking. Water
ओके।
from well can go into the tank but it cannot come back because tank का जो size है वो बड़ा है, well का size छोटा है. Simple physics
हाँ।
principle, pressure is inversely proportional to surface area. So in case of well,
हाँ।
when we have small surface area there is more pressure. In the tank when
हम्म।
we have large surface area it's less pressure, so water from well can move to tank but
हाँ।
cannot come back. And then
हाँ।
the window that is kept, the aqueduct, from where the water goes from well to tank, that is not right at the ground, it's a feet or 2 feet high, which means
ओके।
if there is any garbage, कोई गंदगी है, sludge है, कपड़े धोने से या वो सब गंदगी इकट्ठी हो रही है, वो सारी नीचे बैठ जाएगी, वो भी स्लिप
हम्म।
होकर कुएं में नहीं जा सकती. And every few
हाँ।
years maybe you just desilt it, you clean it so that whatever is gathered on the base, that is
हाँ।
collected. That
हाँ।
is one type of
हाँ।
architecture. Another type of
हम्म।
architecture is where tank and well are the same. For example, we have in
ओके।
Delhi Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia's Bauli, one of
ओके।
the quite famous ones. The tank and the well are same. Kotla Firoz Shah
हाँ।
Bauli, tank and the well are same.
हाँ।
Adalaj,
हाँ।
Rani Ki Vav.
हाँ।
Sorry, Rani Ki Vav has different. Sorry, this Adalaj Chand Bawdi.
हाँ।
So the Abhaneri Chand Bawdi, in that
हाँ।
tank and the well are same.
ओके।
Adalaj and Rani Ki Vav Patan, they have tank and well separate. So
ओके।
in some
बट
cases
व्हाट
we
इज
have, yeah.
हाँ, but what is the benefit of having the well and the tank together? Is
See,
it a better
this was
model?
one thing which they realized when you're washing clothes and when you're bathing in that water is not fit
Mhm.
for drinking, because when you're
Yeah.
washing clothes, you would be using soap, which was
Yeah.
made out of different natural elements, obviously, but it was
Mm.
still not fit for drinking. When you're
Mm.
washing your hair, you would use stuff like amla, shikakai, rita. Now, if you mix
Mm.
rita in water, it will leave a very thin
Yeah.
लेयर, एक चिकनाई आ
Yeah.
जाती है पानी के ऊपर, कुछ देर तक रह जाती है वो, अब वो पानी
हाँ।
नहीं पी सकते. By the way, that
हाँ।
is another reason why they always say that, so there were days specific. On this day you are not allowed to wash clothes. On this day you are not allowed to wash hair. On this day you can bathe. On this day you cannot bathe. All these things, the days were defined. मंगलवार को
हाँ।
सिर नहीं धोना है, शनिवार को ये नहीं करना है, because these common water bodies, if you're
हाँ।
leaving all that residual chemical over there, now we call it
हाँ।
chemical, but of course it has always come from plants and all. If you're leaving all that residue behind, it will affect the other activity. So while you're washing
Mm.
clothes, person who's bathing in there won't be, that stuff won't be good for him. So you leave water
Mm.
for a day, by next day all that will be settled down or collected
Mm.
in one corner, so rest of the water will
Ah,
be clean for you.
okay. So that is the reason why behind a lot of people say कि आज इस दिन wash बाल नहीं धोने हैं ये नहीं करना है, right? But
Exactly.
also आपने जैसे मुझे साइंस एक्सप्लेन किया, ये तो क्लास 6 आई थिंक क्लास 5 या 6 में हमें ये प्रिंसिपल्स पढ़ाए जाते हैं. So it's as simple as that. But now I'm
Exactly.
curious. So I'm curious now, since you just mentioned that there are some Baulis which are wells and tanks एक साथ, and there are separate wells and tanks. So could you tell me? So they've like improved themselves over time. Would you say that they have changed over time? If so,
Yeah.
what is? Huh?
See, in Delhi also, the oldest step well that we have. Now, if you look at the step wells where tank and well are same. For example, in
Huh?
Delhi, we have Firosha Kotla, we have
Huh?
Bada Hindu Rao. These both step wells are in a palace. It used to be the palace of Firosha Tughlaq. Another
Okay. Hmm.
step well which does not have tank and well separate is Nizamuddin Bauli, which is
Hmm.
next to the Khanka of Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia, or what at that time was Ghaspur village, and now it
Hmm.
Khanka is also nearby, but now it's the Dargah. Now over
Hmm.
there, the pilgrims that are coming, they are not coming for bathing. They are not
Hmm.
here to bathe in that water. They would fetch that water for drinking, for various
Okay.
ablutions, but not
Huh?
for full bathing or washing clothes. That was not the
Huh?
requirement over there. So the water
Huh?
won't get dirty to that level. Even if they are bathing, they are just taking a simple dip. And then the
Yeah.
process of sedimentation acts in.
Hmm.
Sedimentation or sand filtration is there is a lot of sand at the base, and
Hmm.
when you're inside, that sand gets mixed, or water that falls into the catchment area goes into the tank. It gets filtered
Hmm.
through sand, so all the harmful
Hmm.
elements get filtered out, or all the
Hmm.
heavy particles, they settle down. So
Hmm.
it works that way. So it's
Okay. So
always
now,
about the purpose of the step well, how you design it.
okay, so it's on the purpose. Now, uh, now purpose we are sorted now with the purpose, but I wanted to ask about the timelines. When was building? Is there a particular period when these Baulis were built? In like Baulis were the new technology. They had just arrived and they were building Baulis all across the entire region. And what kind of construction material that we use? Now, that's I'm very curious about the material that they've used. Would you be
Uh,
able to throw light on them?
Yeah. The oldest reference that we have to what is closest to a Bauli is, of course, the tanks, the great baths of Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Dholavira, all
Hmm.
those Indus Valley cities had that. The
Hmm.
debate is whether they were Baulis or just tanks. There is a difference.
Hmm.
A tank would be something where you fetch water and you fill it. A Bauli
Hmm.
is something where water comes from underground. So in tank,
Hmm.
you can fill rainwater, or you can channel
Hmm.
a small canal or a river to fill that tank, which has been
Hmm.
case in some of the Indus Valley cities. So
Hmm.
yeah, we don't call Indus Valley tanks as proper Baulis.
Hmm.
The oldest Bauli that we talk about is
Hmm.
from 8th century, which is Chandbaudi Abhaneri, and there are a couple of
Hmm.
other Baulis as well from the similar
Hmm.
period, but not in very good shape. Abhaneri happens to be in a very good shape. In Delhi,
Yeah.
Bauli construction started in about 12th century when Iltutmish builds the first
Ah.
Bauli for Khwaja Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki Rahmatullah next to his Khanka, which is also his Dargah now. That's in Mehroli. So Gandhak
Ah.
ki Bauli is what it is called. And by that
Ah.
time, we had only tanks and lakes. In 7th or 8th century, or probably 10th century, Raja Anangpal had already built a tank which is known as Anang Tal, but that's more of a
Ah.
tank, just like one of his family members, Raja Surajpal Singh Tomar, had built Suraj Kund. So it's a huge tank
Ah.
with steps leading to the water level from all sides. Water filled in,
Okay.
the rainwater was filled in that, or they would have
Ah.
channelized water. A proper
Okay.
Bauli was done by Iltutmish, 12th century.
Okay. Okay. So now we are talking about and the construction material. What kind of
Yeah.
material was
Uh,
used?
as far as Delhi, Rajasthan, Haryana, this entire belt is concerned, all the step wells, like other monuments that they have built, this is all of Delhi quartzite stone or the local quartzite stone that they have got. So it's all built of
Hmm.
quartz. And in many cases they have also done plaster over it or added red sandstone. Like you, when you go to Rajasthan side, you get red, a
Hmm.
lot of examples of red sandstones, pillars and carvings and everything.
Huh.
Inside it's all
Huh.
quartzite because it is heavy and a very strong material. So they've used
Hmm.
quartzite, and on that,
Hmm.
just for decorative purposes, they've used red sandstone wherever required, or simple plaster.
Okay. Now, what is unique about Delhi's Baolis? Delhi की बावली की क्या खासियत है?
हर बाउली की कुछ ना कुछ अलग खास बात है. You pick any one. For example, if I take the bauli of Bada Hindu Rao, it has a tunnel connecting that bauli to the palace, the other palace of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, which and tunnel is still there. The British had sealed it, but we know exactly where it goes,
Hmm.
from where, because they had documented it
Hmm.
before sealing it. You
Hmm.
go
Hmm.
to Red Fort Pauli, it acted as a prison for the soldiers of Indian National Army, and it also
Hmm.
has, to present day, one temple and one dargah inside the arches of the Bauli, going on from
Hmm.
since God knows when. Um, we have got Baulis in Delhi which are so small that
Hmm.
sometimes we wonder why did they even make it. They could have just used a simple pit
Made
and
in
water would
Delhi.
have been there. It's hardly
हाँ.
anything. I mean, standing on the top, you can easily jump into the dried up pit.
हाँ.
And then we also have bowls which are so deep that when the refill was refilled in them, uh, many people tried to jump in and they died. They couldn't swim back up. They tried to go way deep, and some kids have died. And now government has, just for protection, sealed those areas,
Hmm.
and nobody's allowed to
Hmm.
go there. So we've got
Hmm.
a lot of things. Gandak ki Bauli is one very classic. As this one incident that I've just told is from Gandak ki Bauli actually, which happens to be one
Okay.
of the deepest Baulis which has water now. It's the oldest Bauli, and when they dug that up, when they reached the base, they punctured some sulfur rock, and they found out that the water that is there is mixed with sulfur. Now, sulfur
Hmm.
is good for bathing, it's good for skin, but it is not good for drinking. It has laxative
Hmm.
effects. So
Hmm.
Gandak ki Bauli became famous that it is a magical Bauli. Gandak means sulfur.
Hmm.
So it's the stepwell of
Okay.
sulfur. It's the magical
हाँ.
Bauli, magical water that can cure any skin disease. Just that
Hmm.
you can't drink that water.
Hmm.
So Gandak ki Bauli is one such case.
हाँ. So nomenclature is quite interesting. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about the naming of Rajo ki Baoli? Now that is
Ah,
another Baoli they mentioned in the book.
Rajon ki Bauli, when often I take people there and I ask them, what do you think the name means? And everybody's like, Rajon ki Bauli, Rajaon ne banai hogi. And I'm like,
Hmm.
राजाओं की बावली नहीं है ये, राजों की बावली है. अच्छा, किसी किंगडम की होगी, किसी राज्य की होगी. See, राज्यों की बावली भी नहीं है, राजों की बावली है.
Hmm.
राजे means raj mistri, masons, karigar. The
Hmm.
people, these
Hmm.
people who build buildings, construct buildings, they are called raje, raj mistri, and they used to live. So this step well has got deep steps leading to the base, and on the both sides they have huge chambers, arched pavilions, and in
हाँ.
these masons used to live, and that's how the
हाँ.
Bauli got its modern name, which is Rajon ki Bauli. Raj Mistri isme rehte hain. And if you want to get your
हाँ.
house constructed, just visit the Bauli. All the families are living there. You can talk to them. They'll come and they'll do your
हाँ.
work.
Yeah. Okay. Now, talking about the usage and life around these Baolis, we just also mentioned that it was used for bathing, washing, drinking, and also for the Rajmistris to stay there and do their work. And construction requires a lot of water and things like that. But did these Baulis also have any political were used as a political instrument also during pre-British era? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Same Rajon ki Bauli was one such thing. Now, Rajon ki Bauli was built by this man called Daulat Khan. Now, what happens?
hmm,
Daulat Khan happens to be the army chief and governor of Lahore during the last second Lodhi emperor. Now,
okay.
when he died and last Lodhi emperor Ibrahim Lodhi became king and took charge, he was not big fan of Daulat Khan. So what
Hmm,
Ibrahim Lodhi did, Ibrahim Lodi started working a plan with which he could replace Daulat Khan as governor of Lahore. Daulat Khan
Hmm.
got that hint through his son, who came to visit the Lodi emperor in Agra. Agra was the capital back then. And he
Hmm.
went back to his father and said, "Dad, I think they're gonna remove you. They are looking for some other alternative." Now Daulat
Hmm.
Khan got pissed, and what he did, he immediately came to Delhi and he constructed this huge and the most beautiful stepwell that anyone has seen, with all the ornaments, medallions, colorful tiles, and everything. Very huge structure. And this was more of a message that he wanted to send to the Lodi emperor in Agra, that look, I can come up till Delhi and I can do work. So
Hmm.
from Lahore to Delhi, I am in charge.
Hmm.
Below that, maybe you are boss, or maybe you are handling rest of the Sultanate, Delhi Sultanate, what they used to call it. Now what we call Delhi Sultanate. But then he
Huh.
wanted to create that impression. It didn't work. So then what he did, Daulat Khan wrote a letter to Muhammad
Huh.
Zahiruddin Babar, who was in Kabul
Hmm.
at that time.
Hmm.
Babar although Babar was ruling from Kabul, but he was not sitting in Kabul the day that letter reached Kabul. He was somewhere else, and
Okay.
a few weeks later, or maybe a month or two later, when he returned from whatever expedition he was on, he got that letter, he read it, and by that time, he already had plans to go to some other place, and he went on that expedition. When he came back, there was another letter waiting from him from Daulat Khan saying that you come, you take over Lahore, and my armies will not stop you. You take over Lahore from Lodhis, and then you make me governor of Lahore, and now I will start reporting to you. Now,
Hmm.
Babar, in his memoirs, Babar Nama, which is actually his biography, the daily diary that he maintained, writes that I have got these two letters from some guy called Daulat Khan of Lahore, and he's
Hmm.
inviting me to invade his own territory, his own region. I don't
Hmm.
know what he's thinking, but now
Hmm.
I'll give it a shot. And
Hmm.
upon that invitation, he reached Lahore, Babar, with his army.
Hmm.
And the
Huh.
moment Babar reached near Lahore, Daulat Khan,
Huh.
with his soldiers, left Lahore and went down to Jalandhar.
Huh.
So Babar's army just entered, and there was nobody to stop him. And he took over
Huh.
Lahore. And
Hmm.
within a few days, when they settled in, then Daulat Khan sent a letter, okay, I have kept my part of the promise. You are here. Now
Hmm.
make me governor of Lahore. So Babar replied that I never made a promise, and I am not here because of you. Had you not me sent, if you would have not sent that letter, I would have still invaded Lahore. So I'm not
Huh.
going anywhere. Then he
Huh.
goes to Lahore and he requests Babar, no, this is not fair. Please, you have to give me this seat. This is very important for me. This and that. And then he says, okay, how about I give you Delhi now? Forget
Hmm.
Lahore. Daulat Khan says, I'll give you Delhi if you make me governor. So now Babar
Hmm.
says, I'll make you governor of Ludhiana, not of
Hmm.
Lahore. No, you are not getting Lahore back. Now it's mine.
Hmm.
If you give me Delhi, I'll give you Ludhiana. Make you
Huh.
governor. So that's when Daulat Khan tells him, okay, now you can attack Delhi. These are the loopholes. These are the secrets. And then Babar attacks. By this time, Ibrahim Lodi is also all set. He takes his
Hmm.
uh, Gwalior, the king of Gwalior, who happens to be his close ally, another person named Vikramaditya.
Hmm.
And these two people, they march all the way up to Panipat, and the Battle of Panipat happens. They get
Huh.
defeated because Babar already knew what kind of army they had, what kind of strength they had.
Huh.
And Babar took over Delhi, and Daulat Khan
Hmm.
could
Hmm.
not enjoy that rule
Hmm.
over Ludhiana for long. He died, and he is buried in this Rajonki Bauli only. So there is a
Hmm.
tomb inside Rajonki Bauli with beautiful tiles, although most of the tiles are gone, only a few traces are left. But that
Hmm.
is one symbol. The tomb of the traitor, you can say the guy who is responsible to start the Mughal dynasty in India, is buried in this
Hmm.
Rajoki Bauli, the Bauli that he built to show his power to his own emperor. So that's
Hmm.
story of Rajoki Bauli.
Yeah. So that is an interesting story and also throws light on importance of these structures and the politics that can revolve around water also. But now what is happening, these baulis have become a lesser known peers of the historical monuments. They don't even figure that much in tourist itinerary. Why do you think that is so? Yeah. Why do you think that is so?
I think that um, we have taken Baolis for granted.
Hmm.
So when the British came, they thought that this water that we are using from wells and step wells, it is unhygienic and dirty. So they wanted to lay pipelines, and which they did. They introduced
Hmm.
something called the sewage system, as we understand it
Hmm.
now. They brought in
Yeah.
piped water. In fact, उस समय कहा गया था पानी पीना पड़ा है पाइप का, हर्फ पढ़ना
Hmm.
पड़ा है टाइप का, पेट दुखता है, आंख
Hmm.
आई है, शाह एडवर्ड की दुहाई है।
Hmm.
पाइपलाइन का पानी आया था तो लोगों को हैजा हो गया था, लोग बीमार पड़ गए थे क्योंकि आदत नहीं थी क्लोरीन मिक्स वाटर
Oh.
पीने की। और अंग्रेजों को
Hmm.
वही समझ में आता था, अंग्रेजों को लगता था ये पानी खराब है। हमारी इम्यूनिटी
Hmm.
ऐसी थी कि हम सिर्फ वही पानी पी सकते थे, हम
This
साफ पानी पीकर
true.
बीमार पड़ जाते थे। सो व्हाट हैपेंड, slowly British made sure that we
Hmm.
start hitting those wells and step wells, and we
Hmm.
only rely on pipe water. And over a
Hmm.
period of time, we just ignored them, and these structures got filled up with filth and water, filth and dirt, and they got
Hmm.
buried. So, out of 33 Baolis in Delhi, hardly
Hmm.
16 are on surface right now that you can go and see. And out of these 16, uh, earlier when I started my expedition, just six had water. Now, about nine have water because of all the
Ha.
restoration work is going on, though
Hmm.
that's another problematic area, because if there is water and you are not using it, it's far
Ha.
more dangerous than having no water.
Oh, so that actually got me to my next question. Ki, the thing is that should these Baulis be just points on stopovers for tourist destinations now, what is happening in the country today, or should they be revived as proper water harvesting and conservation points for the civilization to flourish further?
It would be great if we can revive these Baulis, but hear me out. If you want to revive these Baulis, step one, you need to go and desilt the Bauli. Okay, that's the easy part that you can do. You just clean it up, and then you need to create catchment area from where the rainwater falls all on the land around that place, seeps into the water tank, and Bauli is filled. That can also be done. However, that cannot be done for Baulis which are now falling in dense concrete jungles like Ugrasen ki Bauli, which is quite famous
Mm,
one in Delhi. It's
mm,
in Connaught Place. It's a dense
yeah.
concrete jungle. There is no green
Mm,
patch from where water could seep into the ground. Whatever water
mm,
falls on buildings or on road is all taken into the
mm,
through the drainage system into River Yamuna. So water is not,
mm,
we are not recharging our water table. Suppose you
mm,
even handle that, you are able to
mm,
recharge the water table, you have created water recharge pits, or taken all the measures, and the water is now returned to stepwell. Then this water
oh,
will start stinking. You need to
mm,
reuse this water, you need to recycle this water. How would you do that?
mm,
Will you throw a pipe in air there to pump the water out? Maybe
mm,
yes, but who's going to throw that pipe? That's Delhi Jal Board. Delhi Jal
mm,
Board belongs to Delhi government. The Bauli
mm.
belongs to Central Government, Archaeological Survey of India, reporting to Ministry of Urban Development, Central Government. The land
Ah,
on which pumping station can be built belongs to Delhi Development Authority or Municipal Corporation
ah,
of Delhi.
ah,
And once you fetch the water, you have to connect it. So you need to set up a small pumping station, which will be on MCD land. You need to lay a
ah,
pipe into a central government's structure, and all this
ah,
has to be done by the state government authority.
mm,
And
mm,
on top of that, we
mm,
have a law called the AMASR Act, which will prevent you to uh, do any modification or alteration in that monument,
mm,
which means you cannot put permanent pipes because they will deface the monument. Even if you are
mm,
putting this temporary hose pipe, it will
mm,
require a lot of maintenance, and it is not a very suitable or a good thing to do. So there are a
mm.
lot of challenges, not just at political level, but at technical level also.
Liberal.
If you have to
Mm,
fetch that water out and recycle, there
mm,
are ways. I mean, we are already doing it. We are fetching water out of Red Fort, Kotla Firoz Shah, Old Fort, and Matia Mahal Bauli. And Delhi Jal
okay.
Board is doing it. They have their pumping station, but all that was established decades and decades ago. That's
Mm,
when all these acts were not enforced.
okay.
Probably some of the bodies were not even notified. So
Ah,
they were implemented at that time, and they have continued. So that part is it.
mm,
Nothing new can happen. Another option
Hmm.
is we dig up a hole somewhere near the step well, put a long shaft board pipe in there, and from there we fetch, because internally through underground water channels they are all connected. That can
Hmm.
also help, just that in that case you have to pay a lot of attention to the bauli to keep it cleaning from the surface of the water needs to be cleaned regularly. So it's
Regular.
additional workload, additional cost to
Hmm.
already cash strapped archaeological survey of India.
Hmm.
uh, Having said all this, I have a better suggestion. Instead of focusing on bringing the water level back, why don't we go for adaptive reuse? I mean, look at these
Okay.
bowlies. There are huge tanks and steps leading to the tank. Why can't we use them
Huh.
as amphitheaters? Why can't we have poetry sessions over there, storytelling sessions where people are sitting on the steps with, and all these walls of small alcoves. पुराने टाइम में इनमें दिए जलाए जाते थे, हम दोबारा से दिए जला देते हैं, एक बहुत
Hmm.
अच्छा सा एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट कर देते हैं. स्टेयर्स पर
Hmm.
you can have your carpets and people sitting over there leaving a passage in between, so that, and many of these bowlies are not that deep, which means you
Hmm.
don't have the risk of some sort of stampede or uh, crowding of place. All that can be
Hmm.
preserved. Delhi bowlies are not that deep.
Hmm.
We are not talking about
It
Chand
just,
Bowli, which has like 7 steps.
huh. But that then that will also put the Baulis on the map of cultural
Yes,
tourism and things
exactly.
like that.
That's what
It
I'm
will
saying.
not
Adaptive
just,
reuse is the best option right now.
hmm. That's a good idea. Perhaps we can talk about doing something on that line. Um,
We should.
but we are running out of time, so I have just two more questions left for
Sure.
today's session. Um, First question: why should anyone, for example, living in Calcutta or in Bhubaneswar or in Jammu, um, read a book on Baulis of Delhi? Um, what can they gain from it? For those who
So here's the
haven't
thing.
seen the book yet, they must see this. This is a beautiful little pocket-sized book, and it has been well appreciated. We've actually finished two print runs. So, and before the third print run, we go into a third print run. We have a few copies, so do order your copies as soon as possible. That was shameless talking about our own book, but still, it is important that we show the book right now before we actually address the question that I've just asked.
See, this book is not just about Baulis of Delhi. Yes, the title is such. And yes, I have taken examples. I have mentioned about 10 Baulis of Delhi. There are 32 Baulis. 10, actually 12 Baulis are in this book. But the first two chapters talk about where the introduction, the revival, the science behind the Baulis. I've given all the architectural drawings where we say, where I've shown that how all the Baulis are in a particular direction.
Hmm.
All these steps are leading from north to south. So the deeper end is on the
Hmm.
southern side, and when the sun moves from east to west, sunlight never reaches the tank, so that
Hmm.
the water in the tank is never boiled, never evaporates, and it remains
Huh.
cooler. Now, all those
Hmm.
scientific aspects that they considered while creating these structures, people should know about it. So it's not about history. This is not a history book. Yes, I have mentioned these 12 Baulis in Delhi, but each Bauli has something to offer where we can learn something new out of it. For example, in Agrasen Ki Bauli, PK movie has made Agrasen Ki Bauli probably one of the most famous Baulis in India. Now,
Hmm.
what's so special about Agrasen Ki Bauli? Right from the entry, the very first thing that you see is the board, which says
Hmm.
Agrasen Ki Bauli, and Agrasen is written with a U. Normally, when
Hmm.
we address Maharaja Agrasen, we use the alphabet A, the letter A.
Hmm.
Here, we are using U. Why, how come? Now, one page in this book is dedicated just to this one letter. That how the language of that time was,
Hmm.
the Punjabi language that was being used in most of the region, and how it had its impact on the Khadi Boli of Delhi, and how in
Hmm.
that dialect we don't say Agrasen, we say Ugarsen. Even in Guru
Hmm.
Granth Sahib, he finds a mention where they talk about the yugas, the four yugas.
Hmm.
In the Dwapar Yug, they
Hmm.
say So it goes like this कि सतयुग तय मान्यो छलियो बल बावन पायो त्रेतय तय मान्यो राम रघुवंश कहायो द्वापर कृष्ण मुरार कंस कृतार्थ कियो उगर सैन को राज अभय पगता जन दियो. Now ugar सैन, it
Hmm.
is with a u over there.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
probably that was a local dialect which the British, when they did their documentation, they used. But at the same time, when I looked at
Hmm.
this book, uh, just a second. So that's another good work by Niyogi Books. I love this book actually. The Maps of Delhi. Maps of Delhi has got almost all the old maps from the British and some even from the pre-British era. In this, when I looked at every single map where Agrasen ki Baul is mentioned, I found out that everywhere the spelling is different. Ujar Sen, Ugar Sen, Agar Sen, Ajar Sen, they're using J. And I was
Ah.
surprised that even they were not sure what spelling to use. So there is a lot of mess, and I have prepared that entire list chronologically. That right from the Urdu and Persian manuscripts that I have read, I had to learn a new language to
Wow.
do research for this book. So from
Hmm.
starting right from that point, from all those old manuscripts to the British era and later to the independent Indian era, how this one name has changed and how they
Hmm.
have addressed the spelling and how local dialect has influenced it. So these
Hmm.
kind of things you will find in every chapter, and that is why this book is important. It's not about the history of Delhi, it's about how a culture or a society evolves.
Hmm.
You
Right.
should buy this book.
Yes. But what's next? We have a book on the Baulis of Delhi. What's next for you?
Well, I'm working on Forts of Delhi, and it's
Huh.
almost done. I just have to start the photography and the research in the photo archives. I've done one round, and I've just got permission from Archaeological Survey of India to visit the archives now one again for the second round. And probably tomorrow I'll be going there, and I'll just pull out all the stuff from the archives and finish my second manuscript.
Okay.
So I know
Looking
Trisha will
forward
be very
to it.
happy with that because she's
Yes,
been
I'm very
waiting for this
happy to hear that.
time.
Yeah.
And just 2 days back, I've got a letter from ASI, the
Hmm.
permission letter to visit the archives and get the old
Huh.
images.
Yeah. I'm also keen on receiving my version of the games, that historical games that you have just
Yeah.
created. Um, so
Yes.
perhaps you're going to talk
I'll
about
send
it
it.
on some other.
Sorry?
Perhaps you're going to talk about it on
Yeah,
another
sure.
platform someday,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
soon.
Sure, sure.
And yeah, definitely. So we are going to end the session. We've got reminders that we're almost done with the time. However, we have some time to take some questions. So let's see if we have any. Um, okay, so we have a question by, and it's under Smart City project, many heritage sites, basic structures are affected. What is your view on it? That's one
See,
question
when
by
smart city, yeah, when smart city plan was made, they had taken into account all these heritage sites. Now, interestingly, not all heritage sites are protected monuments. For example, we have a list of 1,300 monuments in Delhi. Right now, out of those 1,300 monuments, the list was prepared in 1920s. Right now, hardly 700, 750 survive. Out of these 750 monuments, only 174 monuments are with Archaeological Survey of India. Remaining
Hmm.
monuments are not with ASI. There are about
Hmm.
300 to 400 monuments which are with Delhi government. But
Hmm.
that list is also dicey. And there are
Okay.
roughly 100 monuments which are in private control. Now, since they
Huh.
are not protected monuments, there is no way to help those monuments. There are a lot of legal issues. So, legally
Hmm.
speaking, when structure around a monument or something is changed, that can be
Hmm.
done only when the law allows. If it is a protected monument within 100 meters, nothing can be done. Within 200
Hmm.
meters, there are certain laws. Within 300 meters, so we have
Hmm.
controlled area, regulated area, all these zones.
Hmm.
So accordingly, those plans were made, and the
Hmm.
structures are being altered if they are.
Okay. Now, Let me look for any other. If we've got a lot of comments. Thank you for liking the session today afternoon. But I'm just scrolling through to see if we have questions that we should take up right away.
No, I don't think I can't see any questions right now. So maybe.
Yeah, I think everybody's had a very satiating lunch and afternoon. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions soon. So till then, I think we should take leave now. But I hope all of you had a great afternoon. You have as always, I always love talking to Vikramjit. Every time I speak to him, I learn something new. I hope you did too. And if you want to get in touch, do write to us. Also, his social media handle goes by the name of Delhi Heritage. You can look him up and maybe leave a message. And of course, we'll all get back to you and we look forward to receiving your questions. Thank you, Vikramjit, for the lovely session. And thank you, Kalinga Litfest, for giving us this opportunity to talk about the book and spread the word about water conservation and these water structures which need to be highlighted for several reasons. Thank you once again, everyone, and hope you have a great evening, great Sunday. Bye.